Hello, beautiful people. My name is Mike Harrell, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about myself because I'm getting a lot of new peoples in new people in my groups and on my like page, and I haven't really ever talked about who I am or what I am. I just want to, talk about my teachings and my understandings and stuff. But it's important to know a little bit about who I am and what I'm doing. So you may want to know what I do. I teach a process. One might call this emotional yoga, or sometimes Kali yoga, or inner child work, or shadow work. I make videos on healing and evolving your emotional body, which is called your will. It's what it is. We are spirit and will beings. Will is our emotions and spirit is our thoughts. This is a workshop teacher training series and support group called Language Lessons of the Heart. I also have a support group called Total Consciousness Revolution. I teach 4 processes: emotion release, judgment and denial release, talking to the parts of self, and an empowerment. You can learn to release, forgive, and replace elements and purge all that is in discord in your being. And as it is a teacher training, you can teach these same processes to others. This is free. Everything I do is free. And it's like being an adult. It's not something you have to pay for. Anyway, this is not a quick fix or band-aid on bad behavior. A lot of people just wanted that one little zip of something, no, it's closer to getting a class where you get a PhD in yourself by doing stuff. You'd have to do stuff. It's not enough to know. It's not enough to know things. You have to do things in order to really transform. You have to embody new behaviors and new understandings. The first incarnation of my workshop was called Total Consciousness Revolution, and the second sort of evolution or incarnation is called Language Lessons of the Heart. I call it Language Lessons of the Heart because that was a little bit easier for people to deal with back in 2016 or so. But as we've been in a one-sided war on consciousness for 12,000 years, the reign of kings and the reign of war and slavery and all that kind of stuff, that's been going on for 12,000 years. This process work is much needed to win this covert evil war on our very soul and being. You need to know the powers that you have and how to release stuff that is not you and not beneficial to you. They're just bad ideas. You're not a slave. You're the supreme being in flesh, or you're representing the supreme being in flesh. So go in for the win. You got to go within yourself to win this war on consciousness and find your heart space. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a guru. I'm not a therapist. I was a workshop teacher, presenter of this process, but I'm not a psychotherapist or a life coach. This is about you learning these processes, learn by doing, and then that's where your understanding comes from. So, what kind of qualifications could you say I have? I don't really have, other than being, when I was in college, I started the Psychology Association of Miami-Dade Community College, and I interviewed a lot of therapists and psychologists and stuff, and I did a lot of reading on it. But this is not really so much psychology. It is about the content of your consciousness. So let me see if I can get my screen share going, and I'll give you uh, a list of what's called spiritually transformative experiences. Just keep in mind this is over 40 years. So if I got 20, it's like every 2 years something happens. But um, again, I was just a retired carpenter, but I had a lot of profound spiritual things happen in my life. First was my meeting, the meeting of the first of four enlightened men, and I was given telepathy and life review. In other words, when I met this guy, I could hear people talk from 2 miles away in their head. And this is just from sitting in the same car with this guy for 4 hours driving around town. And when I would get up close to people, I could see their life from beginning, from birth to death. So that's the life review. It's like a little slideshow, right? That was my first spiritually transformative experience, and that made me want to seek gurus and teachers, because this guy that was fully enlightened, that means the light was on him and in him, and it never went out. And so I would look for those kind of men, and I found a living perfect master, and I received initiation into Kriya Yoga, and I started off doing 6 hours of meditation a day. And it was in the first year of doing that I started experiencing all this love. And I asked, "Oh, let me experience, all the love that there is." And then the next meditation I did the next day, the energy started coming in. This energy, it was pure power. It was power and energy. And it started cracking my bones, my necks, and my back was all cracked. And then the my ribs started to crack, and that's when I started to panic. And as this was happening, I saw the galaxies, and I had this vision of galaxies moving. So the power of love is actually the power that moves galaxies and keeps stars shining and creates things. Then I had another spiritually transformative experience that I was about a year later or something. I was sitting in meditation, and definitely, and I started to feel this whole God presence thing. It was just like this huge energy in front of me. And as I sat there, all of my identity, my ego, all the things that I was ashamed of or being blamed for, all the things I felt guilty about, every single flaw, and it was actually quite a long list. I couldn't believe it. It's just sort of like an apology for my existence. That's what dissolution of the ego is when you come face to face with God, and then everything drops away. So I dropped away until there was actually nothing left. I didn't even exist. And I was sitting in front of God. And then what happens with dissolution of ego is everything comes back. Everything's given back as a gift. You needed this, you needed that, you needed to test this, you needed to grow here. And everything is given back as a gift. So that was pretty transformative. And then by doing Kriya Yoga, Kriya is action. It's to actively engage in your breath. You you pay attention to the incoming and outcoming of your breath you hear, and then there's also your sounds and your light, and it's got 4 techniques. But eventually, if you do it and you calm your mind, this grace, this gift is given to you to see God as light. So you see the light of God, the light of life. For those of people who don't like the word God, it's the light of life. And so I've seen that. So basically, you could say I've seen God multiple or many times. And then one time, this was an Indian guru, and they had Holy Festival every year. And sometimes it was in the United States, sometimes it was in other countries. But Holy is when they throw color at you and water and all this kind of stuff. So I was helping testing out a water cannon, and I got hit by my guru holding the water cannon. He hit me right in the chest with this, water cannon like they use to put out fires, and it was bliss. And I went into 3 days of bliss and ecstasy, and all I could do was cry and laugh, and then cry and joy and laugh. So that was pretty transformative. That just let me know, what that's all about. What that bliss and ecstasy, the highest ecstasy you can feel. Anyway, so after 13 years of that, different, all different kind of experiences. Like a lot of meditation, you sit for literally years and don't experience anything. But what you're doing is you're gradually increasing your vibrational frequency and your ability to hold power. And so that some of that stuff takes time. And then when you're ready, you're given some kind of like a gift, a boon, a blessing, and you get some kind of understandings and stuff. That's Kriya Yoga is pretty amazing, but it's slow. And for good reason, because like I said, when you're cracking, you have enough power to crack your bones, and people can catch on fire and stuff, and you're dealing with the actual energy of the universe itself. That's what love is. So then the last meditation that I had was leaning up against a tree, and I just started meditating, and as I looked up, I saw this universe. I'm saying, wow, that's pretty cool. So from here up, there was a universe. It's like, when you close your eyes and you look up, it's just dark, or maybe there's some little residue from your eyes, but basically it's just dark up there. Well, mine opened up and there was a universe there with stars and constellations and stuff. And then I was invited. This voice came to me and said, "How would you like to be? You're invited to be God of your own universe." And so I'm sitting here looking at the universe and hearing this voice saying, "You want to be God of this universe?" And that was the last time. That was the last time I did that Kriya Yoga. That Kriya Yoga meditation. Kriya Yoga is really incredible, but it turns out I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. I was doing it because I had a lot of pain, and then I reached to the point where the Kriya couldn't go any higher. The enlightenment couldn't go any higher because my pain was holding me back. And that was a preparation. And this whole thing of, if you were a God, what would you do? That was the question. And this universe inside my head lasted for like 4, 5, 6 weeks, where I could, where I went, there was, the top of my head was a universe. But anyway, that was a preparation for the dark night of the soul, which happened about 6 months later. Girlfriend left me, the cat ran away, lost my job, I was going to end up losing my house, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going, how can I, this God realized guy, but it was a dark night of the soul. I needed to do emotional healing because love and light just doesn't cover all the needs that you have. You got to take care of your emotional body, which I knew zero about. I knew a lot about being a yogi, and I was an advanced yogi, but I knew nothing about the dark night of the soul. And so that was the beginning of my healing journey and emotional connection and clearing. And I learned how healing works because I took this yogic concentration and I watched how my emotional wounds were formed, and I went into the dark night of the soul. I dug deep into the cause of my own suffering and my own inadequacy. I achieved God realization, which is kind of where you see the light of God. Enlightenment is the light staying on all the time. But I achieved God realization because of the wounds that I had, and I needed that much just to be able to function as a normal person. Then I started taking acting classes from this guy named Alec Rubin, who was a fabulous teacher, and he taught Primal Scream, which is emotional release. So emotional release is the opposite of emotional suppression. You release, you express it out your mouth. So a primal release is what babies do when they cry. Their whole being is into that crying and either in rage or in frustration or in they want to become. And so when you want to become, this primal scream thing makes you want to become or overcome, right? And it's very cathartic. Probably one of the most cathartic things you can do. Anyway, I did that for 3 years with Alec Rubin, and a lot of powerful things happened, and a lot of transformation happened for me, and that was his work, and my understanding of how consciousness works is what formulated the basis for my first workshops, which were Total Conscious Revolution. And I would have groups that come over to my house. I had this one group come over to my house before Hurricane Andrew, and we were doing a primal scream session. We used to call it Wednesday Bash. And when we did that, there was this little hurricane out in the Atlantic, and it was a force 1. It was a tropical storm working into a force 1. And when we did our emotional release work, I said to the people, said, let's all connect to Mother Nature, you know, and tell her that she has our acceptance, our radical acceptance for her to move her emotions any way she needs to. Because to me, hurricanes and all that kind of stuff is emotional release from the mother herself. So that caused this Hurricane Andrew. Within like 4 or 5 days later, Hurricane Andrew built up to force 5 and started coming inland. And that's when Hurricane Andrew happened. And just coincidentally, the path of the eye went directly over my house. There was no mistake. And everybody who was in that class that day, they knew that us connecting to the nature allowed her to manifest her ferocity, but also her love, because everybody got their house taken away. They got new houses, they got new kitchens, got new bathrooms, they got everything new. So there was like a purging. A lot of people left and a lot of people came in. So that was like pretty powerful right there. It was transformative to me, that whole Hurricane Andrew connected the primal stream, because that's how powerful primal scream is. It can change the course of nature. And it definitely changes the course of our nature. Okay, and this thing of doing a primal release work, you have different your emotional targets as your parents or your teachers or whoever hurt you, your lovers or everything. But there's also raging at God, is because God is the core, is what we see in our emotional body and our inner child. God is the one who's responsible for everything. So I would rage at God every day for about 6 weeks. And so God would actually come into my space, into my house, and I would talk to him and rage at him and say, why is war, and why is this, and why is there so much suffering? And but in doing all this rage work, I started to get my memories back, and the memories from the beginning of creation, which I'll talk about in a second. Okay. And from this, I came to realize that God has 4 parts: spirit, heart, will, and body, which is blue, green, yellow, and red, which is the 4 colors. If you see like a street light with a little circle around it of light, those are the colors. Those are the 4 colors of the white light that is the light of life. But it also corresponds to the 4 parts of self. So you have the parental parts of self, which is a tetrahedron, and then you have the 4 parts of yourself, which is a tetrahedron. When they match together, that makes a double tetrahedron, which is a symbol for your heart. The 4 parts of God and the 4 parts of man. Okay, then my second, and that was my first initiation, that was with Kriya Yoga. But because I was intent on healing the will polarity is the darkness of space. And so there you have a mother God and a father God. The mother God is dark, the father God is light. Since I was healing my will and teaching people how to heal my will, and I was moving a lot of power around at that time, the mother of everything came. The mother of everything is the darkness of space, and she came in, took over my breathing, and showed me this breathing technique from the mother of everything. And it is, we have these different levels of places we can breathe. But she gave me initiation, and as she took over my breathing, the whole top of my ceiling opened up, and I could see stars. It was in the afternoon, but I could see stars, and her as an invisible kind of a being, clothed in stars. And as she took over my breathing and showed me this particular mother of everything breath work, which is that you have a diaphragm from your belly down to your pubis, and when you move that one, which is like a kundalini kind of a thing, the mother energy kind of a thing. That's what that second initiation was. Okay, and all this stuff of my pain, what I did is when I reached down into my own pain, trying to really get to the core of it, with radical acceptance, I would go into my inner child and just hold this pain. And as I just hold this pain, I would get these visions. And in these visions of my own pain, I started to see and connect to my parents' pain and my grandparents' pain and all the pain that was similar to mine. And then we just went back in history until it engulfed all the pain of all the suffering of all the beings and all the animals and beings and everything that's ever existed is nested in my pain. So there's in your pain is a unity of all pain, which is really interesting thing to do. And the Bhagavad Gita says those who can feel the pain of all the beings that ever existence, that's the beginning of consciousness. So that's the will polarity, the emotional release polarity. And if you look in history, how many people are recorded as feeling all the suffering or feeling all the pain of the universe. One of them is Buddha and the other one is Christ. But now you can say, it is something that's available to humans. Okay, and then let's go jump forward another 5 or 10 years, and I had through a series of sort of serendipity, I became friends with the Sasquatch people on the invisible level, on a spiritual level. And they gave me a shamanic journey of talking to a rock, which is something that I didn't know. They didn't know you could do. I knew you could talk to animals and things, and you could talk to spirits and channel and things, but I didn't know you could talk to a rock. And this rock talked to me for like 3 hours. And basically what it was saying is water and rock make life, and then life makes more water and rock. And he just he just gave me the whole history of life on Earth, from microorganisms all the way up to humanity and beyond, and a lot of other stuff too. That was a pretty transformative, because you need to know that. You need to know that every single thing, every single atom in the universe is a conscious being and can talk to you. The air is one of the highest beings that there is on the planet. We breathe in air, and if you breathe in air enough, then that's when you can bring the energy into your heart, or you can bring it up to the top of your head, or whatever that is. But spirit is, I think in Greek, is breath. So spirit and breath. Your spirit is your breath. So you can actually just from breathing air, you can have a transformative experience. That's what breath work is all about, holotropic breath work and things like that. So everything is conscious, which was transformative to me, because I wasn't used to thinking that way. I was always thinking into love and light stuff. Okay, and then I was taken on a craft, right? I was kind of into UFOs, been taken on a craft a few times, and I was taken on this craft one time for 5 hours. And they put me up on this little stage. It was in a sort of like a small meeting room or something. They put me up on this little stage, and they said, we want you to give your report, right? And I didn't even know I had a report. I didn't know the whole thing. But evidently people come down or are sent to Earth to do things, as missions and stuff. So this was a report on my mission. So I talked for 5 hours on how humans get so wounded and how to heal them on the craft. And I think in those 5 hours I didn't get to where the Earth was formed. I was just talking about what was going on in the first creation and in the second creation, and how there was discord and disharmony mixed in with the love and light of the Godhead. And then so and that was like my ET experience with giving my report. Then the Sasquatch elders. I was watching the videos one day and about the Sasquatch talking about heart light, and it was like they were talking about a meditation. And I was watching this and I was going, wow, that's pretty cool. Except I don't think I could ever do that. And as soon as I said I could never do that, this Sasquatch stuck his hand in my heart and took over my breathing. Okay, so this is my third initiation, which you can look at it two ways. Either I'm lucky, or that's what I needed to do to wake up. That was the depth of the hole I was in. Either way, it works out. But that was heart light meditation, which I still do to this day. You breathe into your heart and you're connected. And then when you do, you can get your body to glow. And then after I did that for, I guess, 6 months or a year, I was just doing the heart light meditation. I did it a lot. You can feel the pressure in your heart when you do it. My Sasquatch friend came back in invisible form and took over my breathing one afternoon and got me going really hard, like a bellows, really deep, connected, rapid breath. And as you do that, you increase your energy, your vibration increases. And then I got so full of energy that I thought I started to panic. And when I panicked, I sat up. And when I sat up, I looked at my legs. I only had one leg. My left leg was disappeared. So that was pretty transformative. That you can actually go invisible by with his help. With some people's help, you can go invisible. And the thing about going in and out of craft, there's literally about 7 or 8 million people who've been in and out of craft, and whether you know it or not, they take you out of your body, or they take your body and make it go invisible, transport you to whatever location they are, either off planet or on a craft or some underground base or wherever they are, and they basically teleport you. But in fact, you are teleporting yourself, because your coming and going is like your body actually learns how to go invisible. This is who we are. I just want to let you know this is who we are. We can go invisible. We can do these teleportation things. I know people who've done it consciously. And lately, in the last 2 or 3 years, I spent a lot of time in the beginning of before time, before creation, before the emergence of God and the first creation, in what's called the original cause, and which is kind of important because we are energy beings, and whatever the energy is doing, if the energy is in harmony, it'll manifest harmony. And if it's in discord or out of harmony, it'll manifest that. And this is where good and evil comes from. This is where bliss and suffering comes from. And you have to go all the way back to the beginning of creation to see that it's a connected part of reality. And there's as much bliss in suffering as there is in joy. Right? This doesn't make any sense because it's coming from absolute inclusivity and unconditional love. So I think that's enough. That's enough of an introduction of who I am. But I am passionate. I've been working on keeping this language, lessons of the heart going and total consciousness revolution thing happening. But as you can see, if you look at the political world, there's a lot of stuff happening now, and it's in our face that we've been manipulated, controlled, lied, weighed, judged, found wanting, and we're this our culture is not very healthy, and this made the world not very healthy, and it's not healthy for kids. Any country that has a suicide rate, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with that culture. And this war on consciousness, the war on consciousness, has been going on for so long that we've been enculturated into it. We don't even know that we're being treated like slaves, treated like second class, treated like whatever, crops or chattel. And until you become sovereign, and you need to heal what's all that stuff, bad self-image and guilt and shame and all that kind of stuff. You need to heal all that stuff in order to make yourself sovereign. You're not You don't even have a self until you install a self. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice, and that's what the government is about. Is like taking away your choice. You don't have a choice until you install your own choices. You have to install your own choices, and you have to install your own self, and then you can begin to be sovereign. So to be sovereign is to own is to own your own boundaries, to have your own boundaries, to be inner, directed, and to keep and defend your boundaries from anything that's invasive or parasitic or sabotaging. Okay, so that's a little bit of who I am for all the new people, and I am optimistic. I think we're going to make it. Definitely, we're going to make it because this world's been around for 8 billion years, and I watched it cool down. That was pretty cool. Watching the Earth cool down. Everybody knew that this was going to be a special place. This was going to be a wheel polarity planet where all life has a chance to thrive, and we need to get back to that the original intent of this Mother Earth and our role in it. And enough playing patty cakes, with uh, lower lords and psychopaths and these people who are basically pirates and crooks and liars and cheaters. Well, that's all part of the discord that's built into the universe. But if we buy into it, we make it worse, and when we resist, we make it better. That's kind of that's kind of me in a nutshell. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining my groups. Thanks for doing the work. The more people we do this soul cleaning, whether you call it healing or whether you call it evolution. Whether if you think you've done your healing work, well, you may need to also do some evolution. That's what Language Lessons of the Heart's all about, and Total Conscious Revolution is all about. Get yourself intact first, because the law of correspondence, as within, so without. The world outside is saturated inside you. Until you purge that out and you learn how to regovern yourself, then the outside will reflect your inside, because that's what it is now. The world is in bad shape because it's been programmed that way, but because we've been enculturated, we've owned it. We think that we are this person and we are this country and we are this, and the government is this way, and knowledge is this and that. We got to learn from ourselves from the inside out. So go within for the win.